David Cobb ran for president on the Green Party ticket, and he also managed Ralph Nader's campaign in 2000 in Texas. And he is an activist, a good lawyer, and he joins us today from Humboldt. How are you, sir?
I'm mighty fine. Thank you for asking. Although I'll tell you, David, I am, so personally, I'm great. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I do meaningful, productive work for which I am appreciated by people I respect and hated by my class enemy. I have a loving relationship with my high school sweetheart. I got a great 4-year-old yellow lab that makes my life joyous. Like on a very personal level, every single box is checked.
Right.
And I am terrified at the global climate catastrophe that's not just coming, it's here and getting worse. I am terrified as I watch late stage capitalism just turn on the American people the same way we've exploited and oppressed our capitalism used to do it just to the global South and brown and black skinned people across the world. It's happening in this country. And I want to name it. I am terrified to watch that the ecological and economic crises together are creating a political crisis in this country because the political system can't solve any of the problems that we're facing. To be clear, our political system was never designed to solve white supremacy or solve the gender injustice or solve environmental problems. I'm actually saying something even deeper, David Feldman. I'm saying that our current political system can't do what it's designed to do, which is maintain order, which is why the ecological crisis and the economic crisis are literally creating a political crisis, which is why absolute fascism is literally emerging in this country. And I'm terrified to watch the Republican Party basically embrace a fascist ideology. And I'm watching the Democratic Party, for the most part, the leadership of the Democratic Party fail to understand what that means, fail to articulate the kind of genuine progressive populist vision that would be able to counter that force, and they are fumbling the ball. So that's how I am. I am in a profoundly schizophrenic state. My personal life right now is beautiful. I look at the big picture and think, oh my fucking God. So how's about that for an honest answer?
I agree with you 50%. I just don't have the relationship in the 4-year-old Labrador. So I'm just completely effed. It's just, in fact.
Hey, listen, everybody, I'm going to interrupt you, Feldman. Let's all take up a donation. Like, let's do a little crowdsourcing. Let's buy Feldman a puppy. Feldman needs a puppy.
I can use a puppy. I can. Nothing. You cannot be in a bad mood. You cannot be unhappy if there's a puppy. Yeah, but yours is how old? 4 years old.
4 years old, but it's a yellow lab. So a 4-year-old
right.
Yellow lab, like yellow labs are puppies until they're, until you lose them, right? Labs are a special creature. So he is youthful. Youthful.
We'll talk about relationships and having nothing. I'm joking, but if you have nothing, you welcome the apocalypse as the sweet release. And I'm being serious. Now, there's a tiny little part of me that is just so misanthropic. I know it's wrong, but you go, F the world, bring it on. It's the Thanatos. Freud talks about this. It's just like we want, especially if you've got nothing in your life. We have a country where fewer and fewer people have anything to live for. So there's a fatalism that sets in. When you're in debt, when you're dealing with mental illness that you don't have the money to have it treated, when you're living a joyless life, which so many Americans are because of circumstances, the climate change almost, they don't know it, but there's a part of us that thinks Well, maybe it's time. It's time to shake off the world. There's a fatalism that we cannot fall prey to.
So, David, look. I appreciate that you met my candor with candor and sincerity, right? Like you're a witty guy and you're very quick with a witticism, right? But what we're talking about now, like I really believe this. Like if you look at this, like there is an invitation to fatalism because it is so very dark. But I wish I could remember who said it so that I could give them credit. But I want to be clear. I'm quoting somebody else who said, "You've got to act like it's possible to win a new world, and you've got to do it every single day." And I agree with that.
Joseph Goebbels said that. Goebbels. And he was right about that.
I set you up. I totally set you up. I should have known better.
But he was right. I mean, bad guy, but what he said, no, he didn't say it. But yes.
So, David, like what I would tell you is this. Like one of the things for me is that I have a spiritual and political practice, right? And it goes like this. I try to look at things as clearly and courageously as I can. What is actually objectively happening that I see? Then I try to ask myself, how much agency do I have, right? Like, what can I actually do that feels like it would be meaningful and commiserate with what is being called for? Then I try to make plans. I try to implement those plans as I have humility as I do things to engage in real praxis, to acknowledge my mistakes, to fail forward, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the kicker. This is the spiritual part. I release the result. And I really want to be clear about this to you and your listeners and viewers, because my cosmology and worldview, how I understand the divine, what I call it the goddess. The goddess does not demand that I win a new world. The goddess does not demand that I stop the plunder and the pillage. The goddess demands that I do my best with integrity. That is all. And when I know that I have genuinely gone to sleep at night and that I have done my very best that day to be in integrity and to meet the challenges that I've seen, then I can literally sleep peacefully. I can cuddle up next to my high school sweetheart and with our yellow lab, because we let that lab sleep with us because we're those people. But I like to joke, David Feldman, even knowing all that I know, I sleep a deep and comfortable sleep because I sleep the sleep of the righteous and the exhausted. I work hard, I do my best, and that's all I can do.
Right. See, I'm worried about religion. I think the fatalism and the belief in a higher power is what's going to lead to fascism. There is a part of Western New York that was victimized by cataclysmic forest fires in the early 19th century. The skies in Western New York were just covered in smoke, and people turned to religion. That's where we got the Mormons, the Millerites. The Mormons aren't so apocalyptic, but a lot of apocalyptic, Jesus is coming, Great Awakening religions rose from the ashes of the burnt Western forests of New York. And I think as we go into this summer, and the heat domes continue, more and more people are going to be turning away from Washington, D.C. and to religion. And we have to fight that. We have to fight the human impulse to turn to religion to explain what is not inexplicable.
Aha, there you go. That's the thing, right? Like, look, I don't think it is inherently contradictory for me to say I believe in science, and science is real. I believe in objective metrics and measurements, and I have a cosmology that transcends that. Now, I'm with you. I think it is a tragic mistake to just sort of, like I see the smoke, therefore you go into a religious of any type. But I do think like there's a great joke that my mama taught me. It goes like this. You probably heard it, but don't step on my punchline.
You can give me a my mama joke. You can do my mama joke.
I can give you a my mama. Yeah, it is a my mama joke, but it's a joke my mama taught me, so it ain't about her, as you can well imagine. So here it goes like this. Mama taught me this. So there was an old man in the country who was quite religious. He grew up on the Texas Gulf Coast where we have hurricanes all the time, right? And so he was very religious, and he trusted God. And a hurricane was coming in, and the fella there had been all the announcements like seek higher ground, evacuate. This is going to be a big one. And the fella said, "I trust God. I put my faith in God. I trust God." And they said, no, you got to get out. And the tide was rising. And folks came in on a car and said, get in. This is the last car that's going to be able to get through. And he said, I trust God. I put my faith in God. So the car went off and said, well, that's up to you. And then a boat, it rose up and a boat came in. He's on the second story now. A boat comes in and says, you got to get out. The water's rising. The hurricane's coming. It's going to be bad. Fella said, no, I trust God. I put my faith in God. The boat sped off. Waters rise even further. He's on the roof now, Feldman. He's on the roof. A helicopter comes in, shouts down, here's the ladder. Get on, get on. He says, no, I trust God. I put my faith in God. The helicopter flies off. The waters rise up. That dumb son of a bitch drowned. He went to God and he said, God, I put my trust and faith in you. And God said, you ignorant bastard. I sent a car. I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter.
Yeah.
Right? So look, we still have the time to engage in regenerative economics that could literally address the global climate crisis. As horrible as it is, the Green New Deal is there. Public banking is there. And I dropped into.
You were going to talk about public banking in a second. And I want to talk to you about public banking in a moment. There was an interview with the CEO of Philip Morris. They made the Marlboro Man. And he said yesterday, in 10 years, we are out of the cigarette business. The Corleone family has given up the drugs, the prostitution. I'm thinking of Michael talking to Kay, but the Philip Morris is getting out of selling cigarettes. Now, of course, they're getting into e-cigarettes, which are questionable. In fact, we're going to be talking about Juul in about an hour. Somebody wrote a book about big vape. I happen to think vaping is still better than smoking cigarettes.
Well,
I think
let me just interrupt you to say that's because the science shows that you're right. Like it's bad. You shouldn't do it. But if you have to choose between vaping or smoking a cigarette, then the science is very clear. The cigarette is worse for you, far worse for you.
So Philip Morris has killed millions of people, just like ExxonMobil. They knew that their product was killing people, but they hid the science. Can you envision the kind of leadership that can convince Exxon and Shell and BP to invest in something else like vaping, which I know is dangerous? Kids should not be vaping. But I got news for you. Electric cars, the batteries are not great for the environment, but you should still be driving an electric car and not one that uses oil. Is there a way to sit down with Exxon and BP and say, now You've got to get out of this business. Can you negotiate with these people? Can you come to them and say,
the answer is I'm not going to be the one to do that, because that does not seem like the best use of my time or energy. And like I will say, like with candor, if there is anybody in the listening audience that wants to invest their time and energy into that approach, I would not negate that. I think that there are better and more effective uses of my time. But I do look, I believe in redemption. I believe in rehabilitation. I believe that people can actually see the light, right? But I'm not going to put a whole lot of time on trying to convince the CEO that has a worldview like this to have some sort of, Saul on the road to Damascus experience and become
right.
Paul at the other end, right?
Right.
Can it happen? Sure. Am I going to invest in that time? No, because I only have 24 hours in a day, and I got to play with my puppy and cuddle up with Ruthie. So in the meantime, I'm going to work on public banking. I'm going to work on Dishkama Humboldt, this indigenous-led community land trust. Like, I'm going to work on other things. But to answer your question, could that happen? Yes. Am I going to invest my time? Seems like a long shot.
Okay, public banking. There used to be public banking, the post office. And then the bank said, that's not fair. We can't compete with the government. Banking should only be done through banks. Well, what is it, like 1/3 of Americans are underbanked?
So, David, you set me up. So I'm going to stop you at the setup, because I'm going to actually tease it out. And I know I only got a little bit of time here. So I'm going to tease it out to say you've actually brought two very powerful ideas into the public banking world. And I want to separate them because both of them are important. Number one, the underbanked. The California Public Banking Alliance is working in the state of California to create, basically, let's think of it as the public option for banking, to basically recreate a banking services for poor, houseless, and the underbanked. So that is underway. It's California Assembly Bill 1177. I trust one of your Cracker Jack staffers will put that into the chat.
And Wells Fargo is from California. They do such a great job for the underbanked. they have a line of credit that they offer there.
You know what? It's really funny, Feldman. I know that you're making a crack, but let me tell you something. They weren't offering any of that stuff until 1177 started to pick up steam. And all of a sudden, Wells Fargo said, well, gosh, Wells Fargo, we really want to address this problem. Well, where the fuck were you for the last 100 and some odd years of your existence? So all I'm saying is, underbanked and unbanked people, the need for a public option, absolutely. But wait, there's more, because that's just banking services. The California Public Banking Alliance, of which I am in leadership, and I got to lift up Trinity Tran. I think I'll invite Trinity onto your program, right?
Yes.
So that she and I can talk about this together and really do the whole thing. But organizers in Los Angeles and San Francisco and Oakland and Little Old Humboldt and Santa Rosa and Santa Cruz and all across the country, pre-COVID, under the Democratic Party leadership, actually passed Assembly Bill 857, which allows the creation of up to 10 local or regional public banks, not just to bank underserved people, but to allow us to actually be banks. And what that does, Dave Feldman, is to allow us to use the power of fractional reserve banking to basically finance public infrastructure projects to strike at the very heart of Wall Street America and the stranglehold that they have on what is allowed to happen or not happen. So imagine treating banking like a public utility, and imagine literally a bank that exists not to serve the shareholders, but literally under its charter only exist to serve the public interest. That, my friend, is democratizing finance in a way that is transformational. So yes, 1177 and creating a pool of money for the underbanked, that's great. And we have to address that. That will make people's lives better. But public banking goes one step further and allows us to democratize the financial decisions. Now, right now, 857 is only available, the only depositors, the only people who can create it are governmental institutions. So under 857, the California Public Banking Act, even though I live in California, I can't deposit money into one of these banks that we're beginning to develop. But what the city of Eureka or the county of Humboldt or the city of Los Angeles, yes, exactly, just like North Dakota. By the way, there's one public bank in the entire U.S. right now, and that's in North Dakota. But thanks to the California Public Banking Alliance, and I have to give the hat tip to the Democratic Party that passed that law, we can now have 10 local or regional public banks. And I see Dr. Fraud is joining us.
Has that been signed into law? Has Gavin Newsom signed that into law?
Gavin Newsom signed it into law. It is the law. And it was signed just when COVID hit. And so now we're having to go back and finance it. But as a lawyer, I'll tell you this. So now the Department of Business Organization are promulgating the rules for those local or regional public banks. And as a lawyer, I'll tell you this. There are rules and then there are rules, right? Like I can write, like you can say, okay, there's got to be a public bank. As a lawyer, I could write you a set of rules that would make it virtually impossible to ever create a public bank.
Right.
I could also write law rules that would make it super easy to do a public bank. And we're working directly with the Department of Business Organization. And I'll tell you, so the California Public Banking Alliance, we made the argument, make it super easy. The state legislature says they want to see 10 local or regional public banks. We're democratizing finance. You should make this very, very easy to do for the experiment. Wells Fargo and Wall Street banks were lobbying the Department of Business Organization to say, no, make it super hard because this is public money. This is a disaster. Don't allow this to happen. And to their credit, the Department of Business Organization is playing it straight down the middle. They're saying you can create a bank, it can be a public bank, and we're going to create all the rules around it. We're not going to make it any easier or any more difficult than what it takes to capitalize a private bank. So
and these would be FDIC insured.
They would be FDIC insured. And again, it's all the way straight down the middle. But here's the kicker. Because it's a public bank, the charter itself will actually be about serving the local or regional public interest. So one thing really quickly, and we'll talk about this next time I come on with Trinity, but Dr. Fraud, I know studies economics, like the cost of the privilege to borrow money for public infrastructure projects is literally 50% of the cost of the project, right? Like just the privilege of borrowing the money from Wall Street adds 50% of the cost. So like you imagine a bridge, it's going to cost you, $1 million to build that bridge. When you say this is the cost of labor, material, project management, and so forth, right? $1 million. I'm here to tell you the cost of building that bridge is going to be $2 million. Because by the time you pay the present value of money and you pay the interest on the money that you're doing it, it literally ends up doubling the cost of public infrastructure projects. What I'm telling you, Feldman, is we're going to be able to cut in half the cost of public infrastructure projects as soon as we get these public banks up and going. It's exciting stuff. And I also want to say this before we come off, because I know in the chat, a lot of your folks are always chastising me for being a green.
What?
Give money to Nina Turner. Like Nina Turner's a Democrat. Like that is an important election. And when a genuine progressive like Nina Turner runs for office, I get yelled at and screamed at by Democrats for being a green. And I get yelled at and screamed at by Greens when I say Democrats like Nina Turner deserve our support and we ought to give them money. So
thank you.
I pissed everybody off.
Go to ninaturner.com right now, ninaturner.com. Early voting has started. Vote for Nina right now if you live in the Cleveland area of Ohio, right? She's running basically in Cleveland.
Correct.
And give her money if you're an American citizen or if you have a green card. I believe you can donate to Nina Turner. Go to ninaturner.com and donate, because the worst elements of the Democratic Party are trying to, is it Ms. Brown? They're trying to, Shondell Brown, they're running her, and she's got
They've got she's a straight up neoliberal corporate Democrat of the worst order. She's a friend of the fracking industry, of the banking industry. Like it is really one of those oh my God moments, right? Imagine if you had Bernie Sanders versus Donald Trump. That's kind of what you got going in Cleveland right now.
And this is the primary, which means whoever wins the primary goes to Washington, because it's Cleveland. It's a deep, dark.
It's like India whenever she won the Democratic Party primary in Buffalo, right? We got an out socialist about to become a mayor, y'all.
Is it India Walton? Is that her name?
Yes.
And is the mayor is going to run as writing, right?
That's how audacious the corporate Democrats and the neoliberals are. Rather than respect the primary result, this a-hole is talking about running a write-in candidate, and the Chamber of Commerce and the whole right-wing business class, including the leadership of the Democratic Party, are lining up to support him. Sort of like when Joe Lieberman lost the Democratic Party primary. See, folks, there's a reason I'm agreeing. And y'all should, those of you who are progressive Democrats dedicated to the Democratic Party, you should stop fussing at me. You should actually look at me as an ally and let me be an ally, but also acknowledge the truth of what I say when I say the neoliberal Democratic Party, who controls the apparatus, are no friends of the environment. They're no friends of the working class. They're no friends of people of color.
Amen. Amen. David Cobb, we'll see you next week, I hope.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll see if I can bring Trinity Tran on with me so we can, from jump, go into public banking. And I want to say, Dr. Fraud, I loved the conversation we had last time, but I got to jump this time. So, but I'll listen to you after the fact.
Great. Thank you, David Cobb. When we come back, Dr. Harriet Fraud will join us.